Welcome to Extremely Live. I am Micah Rock and Roll. Today I am here interviewing Andrew Jones, the one and only writer of No Agenda fame and in his own right. MAndrewJones.com boasts 469,273 words written and counting. Impressive. I read a handful of those words in the novella Metal by M. Andrew Jones, which I encourage everyone to go to his website and grab themselves a copy. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You know, I'd mentioned I've been reading pulps a lot recently, and I've been reading a lot of Conan the Barbarian, and there's like old sports stories in there. And I've been reading books on writing because I started doing these comic books. You know, writing story it's not easy to... It's easy to write a story. It's not easy to write an entertaining story that you want to read to the end. And I have to tell you, I blasted through this book you wrote here. It's super entertaining. So I just was wondering what, and I mentioned pulps because it reminded me of that kind of pulp sensibility of like getting straight to the point. You know, you establish what the characters are like very quickly, and there's just no fat on it. It's just very lean and to the point, and you get in there and you're immediately, you introduce a hook immediately that you want to find out, you know, what the payoff is to this hook. And it just reminded me a lot of that early pulp writing where it's like, it's all about just being as entertaining as possible. It's not trying to like make some super deep point or something, but it's, I was under the impression that pulp was quote unquote bad, like bad writing, but it just means it's entertainment, which I you know, had been led to believe it was garbage or whatever, but it's extremely well written and very, very fun. And your book reminded me of that. And I'm just curious what your influences are and kind of how you got started writing.
Oh, I've always been a big fan of pretty much pulp. I mean, it's the golden age sci-fi, golden age fantasy fiction of like the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That was the stuff I was reading a lot of growing up. Yeah, Robert Heinlein, Orson Scott Card, Terry Brooks. Who else were we reading a lot of? So when I was a freshman in high school, when I discovered I wanted to write, I read, have you ever heard of Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card? They made that terrible movie out of it. The movie's really bad. But the book is amazing. The book was a super quick read. It was very interesting. And after I read that, one of the first thoughts I had was, I will never write a story this good. And I didn't even know I wanted to write. But after that, I was like, oh, I want to be a writer. And so, yeah, I've been taking it serious ever since high school.
That's awesome. Well, it shows. It shows you have a lot of practice because, again, like, it's hard to grab people. It's hard to be entertaining. Like, it's easy to put words down on paper. It's easy to draw a picture, but actually getting people engaged and invested, in my experience, both in making things and consuming, you know, independent media, it's not easy to do. And I have to say you nailed it in this. I'm excited to check out your other writing. And the other interesting thing is the way you disseminate your writing, the way your website is built. I love it. It's like you put a bunch of stuff up for free. You can read whatever you want, as much as you want.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's all there, and then you can buy like print copies, and you can, you know, if you got value from your writing, you can give value back through like a donation page, which I think is. I think it's the way to go. Like that's how I've modeled my comic book as well. Like you can get a copy of my comic for free on my website, digital. If you want to print, you got to give me something because print is not cheap these days. But
Yeah.
But the idea is, oh hell
Orange
yeah,
flavor, people, get a copy.
you're the best, dude. But
It's a good comic.
Thanks.
It was very entertaining.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that is the way to go for independent creators. It's like, you know, you just kind of have to, you got to show your work, because nobody knows who you are. Like not the way, like,
Yeah.
you know, you don't have $6 million of advertising behind you, to just like be in front of people's faces over and over until they break down and are like, all right, I'll just see what the hell this thing is. So, you know, the model is a little different, for people, like us.
Yeah. It's very much the long game. I think Value for Value is very much in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people have heard of it especially outside of No Agenda Network, and their family of related entertainment. So yeah, but I think it's growing. I think it's the right way to go. Yeah, I like it. I'm hoping it'll pay off in spades as I get older, as things go along.
Exactly. It is specifically for creating media. It's good that as you go on, you kind of build this body of work that can, you know, people can catch on to and purchase throughout your lifetime. I'm trying to think of where I want to go. Where are you from? I kind of want to get to know you a little bit. I guess we kind of dove right into your writing. I don't really know much about you as a dude.
Well, I'm from Colorado Springs, born and raised. I did get away for a while. I lived in Utah, grew up Mormon, so I also lived in Southern California for a little while, Alaska, Portland, Oregon. But yeah, I keep coming back here. So this is home.
Nice.
Out on the Front Range.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm from upstate New York, and now I've been in New York City for almost a decade, I think now. And man, I miss nature, dude. Like there's something very healthy about being around lots of green foliage that you just don't get to experience in the city. It's I don't know if you know upstate New York, but it's like night and day differences compared to New York City. Like there's nobody around. Like, you know, we grew up broke, and yet my parents were able to have like 8 acres because it's just like everything's like there's no industry there, so everything's like cheap. So they moved from like they sold a house in Jersey and then bought like a fixer upper in upstate New York. But the point I guess I'm getting at is I just miss land, like being on like just fresh air, land, being outside. And it sounds like you're kind of have more of those vibes over there.
Yeah, it's not nearly as green as back east, I'm sure. A lot of red rock and it's a drier, more arid climate for sure. But I mean, it's still close to nature, and like I'm downtown, but I'm like also 10 minutes from the foothills, and I can get out into the hiking trails 10 minutes, no problem. It's really nice. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's an important thing, you know, like what do the Japanese call it, like forest bathing or whatever, where you're just out, like they go out in the forest just to be in the forest. It's kind of like a restorative. You can hear the cops blasting their sirens right now as I'm talking about Japanese forest bathing. It is an important thing.
To remind you of where you are.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So yeah, I guess.
How long have you been in the city?
I moved here, I believe. I'm trying to think. I used to reverse commute out. I moved to kind of like 2 hours outside the city for a job right out of college in 2008, and then I believe I started commuting into the city to do comedy in like 2012, something like that. And I moved here either in 2013 or 2014. I can't quite remember.
Oh, okay.
So either exactly a decade or just about to be something like that. Which is kind of cool.
You must. Yeah, you should. I feel like you probably know the city pretty well then.
Yeah, I would say so.
Of course, it's a big city, I guess.
Yeah,
I've never actually been, so
it's
talking out of class.
It's pretty wild. But we found a nice, quiet neighborhood in Ridgewood. It's like in Queens, and it's like us. And then was for the longest time it was like us. We were like the youngest people on like a 4-block radius. It was all like old Polish families with kids and stuff. And me and my wife moved here. Now people who like younger than us are moving here, which is a bummer because it just means like drunken yelling on the weekends as they come home from the bars, which is not a vibe I'm into, but it's still pretty good. It's not like it's busy and crazy, but you got to make an effort to get around trees, which I don't think is healthy for anybody. But yeah,
being stuck in that environment.
Yeah,
it turns into neuromancer.
yeah, exactly. So let's talk about metal a little bit.
Sure.
It can I describe the sort of the setup? Is that cool?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it opens with sort of two. How shall I describe these ladies? Kind of like party animal types.
Yeah, I call
like
them
scene girls.
Dumpster fire girls.
Yeah. Did you play music? Are you a music guy?
I am, but like metal's not. I feel like such a fake. I feel like a fraud because I don't listen to a lot of metal. I listen to a little, but I mostly listen to like really soft stuff and pop music. I love pop music, but I love like the old 80s and 90s pop music. And then like for the new stuff, I go for like the mild alt rock, like Hazel English and Sjogren and these sorts of poppy bands.
Gotcha. Well, I wasn't gonna make you prove your metal status. Don't worry. I was just curious.
I know who Pink Floyd is. I've heard a song or two by Metallica.
I was curious.
We actually used to.
Go ahead.
In high school, like it was nothing but Metallica's Black Album, day in and day out. Whenever I was at wrestling, it was all that played. It was all that ever played. It was, and I really like it. Even then, it was like, well, if we got to listen to one album on repeat, might as well be Metallica's Black.
Yeah, especially when you get in that wrestling zone, baby. You gotta be fucking
perfect
pumped.
Every once in a while, they'd switch on Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, there you go. That's they're pretty good. They're what was it? Battle for Los Angeles album was one me and my friend in high school played a ton.
Okay.
But yeah, you introduce these characters early on. They're at the backstage of like a big metal show that's just complete, and we follow I'm gonna blank on her name because I'm an idiot. Sophie.
Sophie.
Yeah. We follow Sophie, who's kind of like a scene girl, trying to meet people. Maybe an aspiring musician type who is just kind of trying to get in with the cool people, and she gets the attention of the drummer, and
she's stalking him. She's totally stalking him.
Yeah, that is the vibe. She's on a mission. Yeah.
She is. She's gonna talk to him one way or the other.
So she accomplishes her mission. Guy seems a little weird, has some strange things to say, but ultimately, the exchange, the crux of the book is he says he wants to he wants to get away with murder, and he's like, I want to murder you. And then she says,
I want to murder you and get away with it.
Yeah. and then she says, I want $100,000 and 6 months to live or something like that, or 6 months to spend it.
Yeah. 6 months to spend it.
Yeah. So that's the beginning. And eventually, they get more intertwined with each other. And it's the thing that keeps you going is, will he murder this woman? Like, is he serious? And you know what it immediately made me think of was, did you see that news story of that actor Armie Hammer, who he basically got fired off all his projects because a woman came out and said while we were like dating, he kept telling me he wanted to eat me, like cannibalize me. And
I do remember that.
There was like something about, I think the deal was, I'm half remembering this myself, but I think his whole deal was he wanted her to get her rib removed so he could cook it and eat her like rib, like eating like barbecue ribs. And it's so
actually, now that you mentioned it, I do remember that.
Dude, it's the same character. It's like, because he's like a billionaire. I believe even before he was an actor, he was a billionaire. Like, he's a very rich guy.
I thought he came from a rich family.
Yeah. So he's like this weird, like, he's, fucked every way you can fuck, and now he's like seeing if he can get some poor woman to agree to let him eat pieces of her. So
yeah, see, my book's mild compared to real life.
Exactly. Except compared to real life. But that moment is what that reminded me of. Just so weird and creepy. But the story kind of unfolds with I don't know how much to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But he basically makes good on the money end of the bargain and drops off $100,000 in cash. And then it's like, whoa, okay, he really might actually want to murder this woman. And then we kind of see Sophie change her life around now that she has this like padding of cash in her bank account. She starts to kind of put her life together a little bit.
I thought that was actually like probably the most interesting angle of the whole story was that Sophie makes this crazy agreement that she's gonna let him try to murder her, because she doesn't agree that she's gonna just let him murder her.
Right.
She's like, well, I'm gonna fight you if it comes in. He's like, well, that's what I want. Why would I want to just? So, but when she gets the money, it in a way just validates her, and she sees it as like a validation of just like, oh, like the universe cares about me enough to give me this opportunity to like have some fun, and like, because she's never really had anything before. She's pretty much an orphan, and so the money is just like this great blessing from God kind of thing. And so it totally changes her. Like she does a complete 180 and becomes a different person in the process. And of course that's also part of the problem, is because like before she didn't really have anything to live for, so to be murdered was whatever. And then after she gets the money, well, suddenly now she has something to lose.
Right.
So
Yeah, it was handled very believably. Like I could I like 2017 I got my first like legit job. I'm a video editor. And I was like freelance for forever. And I landed a Comedy Central pilot, and it was like a union
cool.
gig. And it was like suddenly I was getting like, you know, New York media paychecks. After, like before that, I was making like $200 at a night as a bartender at a at a
good old bar life.
yeah, but like at a fake bar at a comedy, like an improv theater bar. So like everyone there was also broke and like could barely tip, and it was kind of a nightmare for a little bit here. But the to suddenly just have like legit money coming in after having none come in for years and years, of like literally being like, oh God, I hope I get something next month, otherwise I have no clue how I'm going to pay my rent. Like there is a kind of like this calm hits where you're like, okay, I can finally relax because I'm not freaked out about, you know, paying my bills next month. And you do kind of start to like take stock of your life and start to like figure out what needs improving, and like what are my routines that I'm doing just because I'm, you know, so worried about other things that I'm not paying attention to the things I'm, you know, doing that aren't healthy, yada yada yada. So like all of that very much rang true to me, of like having this like anxiety reliever of this sudden windfall of cash. She's like realizes she's living, you know, in squalor, and like this sucks. I don't have to live like this.
Yeah, at the beginning of the book, when she makes the deal, it's just not a stretch for her because like she's pretty much at the bottom anyway. You know, she's not quite on the streets, but you know, she's feeling that pressure.
Yeah.
She's feeling like she could be any day. So yeah. And then actually the amount of money was always a bit of an argument. Like I didn't want to give her so much that it was just insane that she had
like $1 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. $1 million is
100,000.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I just like 100,000 is not even a lot of money, but it's certainly enough to really change somebody's life. That's, you know, that's just getting by.
Totally. Yeah. Like working at a, you know, fast food restaurant, like, you know, paying probably 90% of your, you know, income to your rent for an apartment that's like a piece of crap. Like that's that's real, you know? And getting $100,000. Yes, you're right. It like, especially, you know, in 2024 dollars doesn't sound like a lot, but it is all at once. And when you're coming from a you know, a place like that, it's legit life changing to like be able to just kind of like basically exactly what she did, like just restructuring her life and getting things in order and taking herself more seriously. Like the bulk of the book is her being like, is this dude really going to try and murder me? Or is he like just a freak? Or, and then the rest is you kind of enjoy watching her kind of sort things out and patch up relationships and get out of bad ones that she shouldn't be in, and like you're rooting for her. You grow to like this girl. So when this guy shows up again to kind of we don't know, why is he there, you know? You're tense, you know, you don't want anything bad to happen to her. Like at first you're like, oh, this girl's like a crazy druggy scumbag, but then towards the end you're like, oh, this is a nice person who deserves to live. Should not be murdered. I also like the kind of the through line of her like working on her song, and it turns out that she's actually like a talented musician as well. And like you can see her, pursuing that in the future rather than just continuing to work for scumbags or whatever. Now, I won't spoil the ending because you should read this book, which you can read for free, but you should donate if you read it at mandrewjones.com, or buy yourself a copy. Physical books and physical objects are nice. They make you feel good to have. This is a nice a nice satin finish on the cover. I was very jealous of. That was
the matte cover.
Yeah, it feels nice to touch. Definitely worth grabbing a printed copy. But yeah,
and being that it's matte and also very, very dark, you'll get fingerprints all over it, and then it gets nice and dirty, just like the book, just like the internal story.
It'll reflect the
all
story.
Greasy, yeah.
But yeah, so,
and this is never going away. Like if you have one of these, when the internet shuts off, you still got it.
It's true.
So
very good point. Yeah, grab yourself a copy. Gosh darn it, it's good stuff. But I won't spoil the end. But what I want to know about the end is, did you have the structure of the ending in mind as you were like before you got there, or did you come to that decision when you got there, like naturally? Like, I'm guessing did you come up with the end first and write towards it, or did you get to the end and you're like, what's happening here? Like,
I actually the story came pretty much whole cloth when I woke up angry one morning and this whole story started spinning in my head. And after about 10 minutes, I got up and started taking notes. I was like, this is too good. And initially, actually, it was going to be ambiguous. So the ending was tacked on later. The original ending was that the 6 months happened. We get through the whole 6 months, and then she sees him and he sees her, and cut to black.
Oh,
like, we don't know what happens after that.
Right.
So that was the original ending. And I was telling my brother about it, my oldest brother, and he was like, "Oh, I hate it when people do ambiguous endings." It's like the writer has no idea of how he wants to end it. So I took that personally.
As you do.
That's yeah. And so that's how the ending came to be.
Gotcha. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Endings are, story structure in general can be tricky. But yeah, I will say, to the curious listener, it's a good ending. You will be satisfied by the ending. That's all I will say.
I would say that the ending is actually secondary to the rest of the story.
I agree. I do too.
Yeah.
I enjoyed getting to know Sophie and kind of going on that journey with her of like cleaning up her life, taking herself seriously, actually trying things, not being a lazy scumbag. Things we should all be doing, basically.
Yeah, it's very much a story of self-discovery. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's very fun. I quite enjoyed. I will definitely be reading more of your stuff. What are you working on lately?
Well, currently I'm just about done with my the second volume of my fantasy fiction cycle. It starts with Children of the Broken Moon.
Oh.
And then part 2 is called Under Oblara, and yeah, it's just a continuation of this epic high fantasy with nearly 100 named characters, and it's a mess. It's a glorious mess. Like
Is
there's
this
so
available
much
on your
going
site?
on. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Chimera
shit.
Cycle. It's under the on the site as Chimera Cycle primarily, and
Oh
then
yeah, here it is.
from there it's broken down into the books. So Children of the Broken Moon, Under Oblara, Dreadlord Lacidus is the next one coming, and then the final one's called A Thousand Sparks. But I have nothing but bare bones notes for 3 and 4.
That's awesome.
I have a couple chapters for
I'll read this for sure. That's cool. I love you know, the genre stuff. It's very fun. The like
yeah, it
sword and sorcery and sci-fi and all that stuff's very enjoyable.
yeah.
I'm building up my skills as a comic artist and writer to eventually do a sci-fi story that I've had in my head for a long time, but I want my skills to match the imagery I see in my head, and also like I have a very clear beginning and a very clear end, but the middle part is where I need to flesh things out.
Yeah.
Which I will say,
Yeah.
your middle was very good middle, and that's tricky because that can slow down, and you can be being like, all right, what? Come on, get to the point. You had a good middle. This is a very good story,
Thanks.
dude. I was very impressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with it. I think I'm very proud of Metal.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a delightful little tale.
I think it's the perfect one for people to start with because you can read it quick, and you'll get a taste for your style, and it's good. You will not regret it, and you should be reading more. Quit scrolling around on on social media. God, I went to
all right.
yeah, I went to an exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum. It was like a zine exhibit of all these like music zines and punk zines and all this stuff throughout.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it just made me so bummed though because these are just normal people making shit, you know, like they're like they had a creative like spark or whatever, but anybody can do that. Anybody can make a zine or write a story and print it out and hand it to people.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of people, you know, I mean, I know I personally, it took me a long time to get started on this project just because I was like, you know, you like you were saying, you read Ender's Game and you're like, this is incredible. I'll never be this good. Like that's me like reading like anything by Akira Toriyama or like Junji Ito, or these are all comic guys, or like, you know, just anything basically. Like, cause it's just so polished and well done. And then it's like, fuck, the idea of what I want to make in my head is something I know I can't achieve, but I just have to make stuff. Like it doesn't matter. You just have to do it. And I bet there's a lot of people out there who are in that boat and they don't ever make that step of just like making something. And it's sad.
Do it, people. It's worth it.
Yeah, seriously. It's like it doesn't matter what the end product is. It doesn't matter if you know, anybody gives a shit about it, but you will feel excellent after you've like completed making something. It is a very good feeling that I think more people should be feeling instead of just consuming, you know, whatever's on their cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would counsel to take your time with it. Like there's no rush. Doesn't need to be done tomorrow.
Yeah.
So like my first book took me 10 years.
Yeah.
So but you know, it's like even today I go back and I read sections of it and I'm like very proud of it. I'm like, this works. This is totally an engaging story.
Yeah.
So, been writing for 20 years. I got 4 books. I'm not going fast at all.
Hey man, none of this stuff's easy. I that was the best part about making orange flavors. At the end, you know, I'm a pretty self-critical person. I can find something to be mad at everything I make. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of that, you know, in but all things considered, I was I was extremely proud of it, and like I felt like I did the best I could do in that moment, and the just the process of doing it made me better, and like I'm excited to make the next thing because I know it'll be better than the first thing.
It's engaging. I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I
I'm
wasn't
waiting
fishing for
for
compliments, but I was just
I'm
just
waiting
that
for volume
feeling of
2.
like, you know, feeling good about the thing you make is a very good feeling that everybody should should get a chance to feel.
Yeah, I agree.
And like doing things, you know, it feels counterproductive. Like you know, I worked in television and I absolutely hated it. It was great money, but it was just, God, I don't know. There was just something very slimy and kind of evil about it to me. Uh, and from that point on, I was like, you know, I I don't want to try and get this industry to like sign on to an idea of mine. And I kind of just, that idea just kind of went out of my head of like going that route, and kind of following, you know, the no agenda value for value model of just like making stuff, putting it out there, and building a following of people who give a shit about what you're doing, and that only you are doing, that you don't have to like have it approved by, you know, 50 people who don't really quite get what you're going for and are injecting their own kind of thoughts into it just so that they can see themselves reflected in your project. Like the
Yeah.
I think this is the best possible way to go, and I of just like doing it yourself, finding your own audience. It's a ton of work, and like selling is not fun. I don't For me personally, like it feels a little slimy,
The
but
marketing's hard.
it's
The marketing's
extremely
really
difficult.
hard.
It's way harder than making the thing. Like figuring out how to get people interested in it is it's just as creative, oddly, but it's way harder, only because maybe because I'm just not as good at it, but it's it's definitely work. Like that's definitely part of it, and that's something you have to get good at and exercise. But I think ultimately, especially with like kind of like the censorious nature of everything right now, of kind of every big media company kind of having a very specific range of things they will deal with and what they won't deal with. Making your own
Yeah.
thing, but for yourself, and you know, doing the work of finding an audience, I think is the smarter way to make media for the future. Because I think the money's going to dry up in a big way for a lot of that a lot of the professional media, just because, you know, they're not printing money as much as they used to, and the people, the heads of the studios and such, aren't going to be able to access it as much. But just like, yeah, there won't be as much money. Won't It's not nearly as easy to get in as it used to be. And I think ultimately you don't ever really quite get to make exactly what you wanted because you're spending other people's money to make it, and they all kind of have their idea of what they want. And you might not get rich making things yourself and marketing them yourself, but I think you can probably make a living eventually. And I think you're going the right route, and I'm encouraged to see you know, other people doing the same thing. That's my spiel.
Yeah, me too. It's a good spiel. Yeah. Um, you know, I would sure like some of that Hollywood money though at the same time. And it's not like
I know.
everything. There's still some good stuff that comes out of Hollywood. It's just not much.
Yeah, it's true. There is stuff that gets through that is good, and specifically film is and television is like it is pretty collaborative. You can't do it yourself,
Yeah.
but there is something special about doing projects that you can do by yourself, like the soul voice creating a project is very cool to me. Just because that's where all the weird wild stuff comes from, because it's just one person's execution on an idea to the end without any other input. And I'm,
Yeah.
plenty of times that's bad, but plenty of times it's something incredible that wouldn't exist otherwise.
Well, and I actually started with screenplays
Yeah.
and moved to novels. I had an inkling that Hollywood was a slimy place. And then when I went out to Southern California, I was in San Clemente, and I did not like going north up into Los Angeles. It was just a dirty, gross town. And so, yeah, so I switched to novels.
Yeah. It's
I'm not sad about it.
it's a similar story for me. Like I didn't go, I've worked on like 3 television shows. Like that's as far as I got. But it got to a point where I was turning down other TV gigs because same thing. It just was like, this feels wrong. I like, I work in comedy, and I really like topical humor. I think people shit on SNL, but I think Weekend Update is still pretty good even to this day. I like topical humor, like when when you have good late night writers, you get good monologue jokes, like that kind of a thing. And I was excited to work on this gig for it was like a Daily Show spinoff. And I was excited because I like topical jokes, but that's not what it is anymore. It's not topical jokes of like, let's make fun of the ruling class, fuck these jerks. Like, it's literally like it's very clear which political party you're there to prop up and which one you're there to demonize.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not about being funny. It's about like reputation destruction and like neutralizing attacks against your person, and like through the lens of humor. And it was so depressing, man. Like, it was just like, oh, none of this is about being funny. It's like, it's about making effective propaganda. And I just couldn't stomach it. Like, the money was this is the best money I ever made in my life, but like, that's how they get you to do things you don't believe in. Like, that's the trick. Like, they pay you to not think about how you're compromising your own, morals and views and things like that. And it just got so gross, and it was a bummer because it's all I ever wanted to do. And, I worked hard to get there, and, but at the same time, it's like seeing people like you and No Agenda and, a lot of podcasters and, people who do the Patreon thing. Like, Patreon's not ideal, but at least people are finding ways to say what they want to say, do what they want to do, and have a direct audience that is willing to pay to see that stuff and enjoy it. And on that note, you should head to mandrewjones.com and buy yourself a copy of Metal. It's super fun. It's very inspiring. If you're a person who likes to make stuff, you'll get psyched to make your own things reading it. And it's very entertaining. And it's by a very nice guy who seems cool. Seems like a cool dude. So it's always good to support cool dudes.
Yeah. So I'm going dark over here.
I know.
Sun went down behind the hills.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't bother to turn on the light, so I'm just slowly fading into the
it's a good look.
Darkness. Cut to black, people. Cut to black.
Yeah.
This is how you go out.
Is there anything you'd like to share before we wrap up here? Oh, that's so hilarious. You totally did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just always working on something new. I got a zombie book coming out.
Whoa,
so there should be
cool.
links to the initial chapters of that appearing on my website any day now. If they're not,
you serialize them? You release chapter by chapter on your website?
Well, it's with the way the website works, it kind of goes. I actually write, aside from my notes, aside from my very basic note taking, I put everything up on the website. Like, it's all to the website.
Gotcha.
So sometimes I don't publish the links so that I can hide things a little bit, but I usually put it up pretty quick.
Gotcha.
So, and then the stuff that I'm hiding is it's not great. It's not pretty.
Yeah, I know. That's that's the other part of
you're not missing out.
Yeah, of working on your own stuff is you have to be diligent about being your own editor. I'm lucky. My wife, I would show her ideas for segments for like the comic book, and she'd be like, "This is so angry. Why do you think this is funny?" And I'm like, "All right, fine. It's too angry." And I made a conscious effort. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I nixed a whole book. My second book I just felt was too angry, and so
yeah,
it'll never see the light of day.
We have enough angry, yelling people in the world, so I tried to make it more fun and lively rather than a full on middle finger screaming, freak.
Buy some light, happy media. Light, happy media.
There's edge to it. We have a little edge, but
yeah, there is, yeah.
But it's very
we're dealing in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, my wife needs the microphone for an audition, so.
Okay. Well, good luck to her.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much for doing this. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I checked. The zombie novel is there. Well, the first couple chapters are there. It's a brief history of the near future is the working title.
Oh yeah.
So
you mentioned this on a No Agenda donation, didn't you? Or I know the title.
Did I send you a copy of the newsletter when I sent the book?
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
That might have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to check out your high fantasy novel. That'll be sick.
I really like it.
Sweet. I'm excited to dive in. Do you have anywhere you want to send people? Just your website? Is that the best place?
Yeah, just mandrewjones.com. I'm not active on social media at all.
Good.
I call it anti-social media. If you want to get a hold of me, just scroll down to the bottom of my website on any page, and there's my email address.
Awesome.
Yeah, hit me up.
All right. Well, this has been an interview with M. Andrew Jones on Extremely.live. If you enjoyed what you heard, send us some value at Extremely.live/donate. $10 or more, I'll get you a little shout out on the show. Anything you write, I'll read. And that's it. That's the spiel. Make independent media, people. Make stuff. Have fun. Give it away for free. And ask for payment in return because you don't know what your stuff's worth. Let people tell you what it's worth. It might be more than you thought. Might be less than you thought. But it's an interesting model that more people should explore.
Yeah, value for value, baby.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Micah Rock and Roll.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for hanging out. This was fun.